The following content has been generated with artificial intelligence under minimal human supervision. The data presented may contain errors or inaccuracies. The opinions expressed in this content do not necessarily reflect the vision, position, or values of DigiAll. We recommend verifying critical information with additional sources before making decisions based on this content.
Welcome to DigiAll Tech News. Today is Sunday, February 1st, 2026. I'm Kylie Brooks, and this is where technology becomes clear and engaging. Apple makes its biggest acquisition in a decade, spending $2 billion on lip-reading technology that could transform how we interact with wearables. Elon Musk's SpaceX files to launch 1 million satellites into orbit to create orbital data centers for artificial intelligence. Google unveils Project Genie, an AI that turns simple text prompts into fully interactive playable worlds, sending video game stocks tumbling. A former skeptic makes the conservative case for universal basic income as AI threatens to make millions unemployable within the next decade. Researchers reveal the hidden geometry behind how AI agents learn, discovering they think in stratified spaces with shifting dimensions. Let's start with Apple, because this is fascinating. Yesterday, they announced they're acquiring an Israeli startup called Q.ai for about $2 billion. Now, this is Apple's largest purchase since they bought Beats back in 2014, so we're talking major investment here. What makes Q.ai special? They've developed technology that can track the tiniest facial movements, muscle twitches, and lip movements using optical sensors. Think about that for a second. This tech can recognize when you're silently mouthing commands to your devices or picking up on subtle emotional cues from your face. Here's where it gets really interesting. One of Q.ai's founders previously created PrimeSense, which Apple bought back in 2013. That technology became the true depth camera we use for Face ID and hand tracking in Vision Pro. So Apple clearly sees potential here. The big question is, where will this show up? The rumor mill says future AirPods might include infrared cameras, and this lip-reading tech could let you control your devices without speaking out loud. Imagine you're in a meeting and you can silently tell your AirPods to take a note or set a reminder just by moving your lips. No awkward "Hey Siri" moments. Of course, this also raises some privacy concerns. Technology that can read your intentions from a distance. That's a conversation we're going to need to have. But for now, it's clear Apple is betting big on a future where our wearables understand us in ways that feel almost telepathic. Now, if you thought Elon Musk's Starlink network was ambitious, wait until you hear this. SpaceX just filed an application with the Federal Communications Commission to launch 1 million satellites into Earth's orbit. Yes, you heard that right. 1 million. The goal? Create orbital data centers to power artificial intelligence. SpaceX argues that traditional data centers on Earth just can't keep up with AI's growing computing demands. So their solution is to put solar-powered satellites in low Earth orbit, between 500 and 2,000 kilometers up, to handle the processing. They claim this approach is more energy efficient and uses less water for cooling than ground-based facilities. They even posted that these satellites will be so far apart that you won't be able to see from one to another because, quote, space is so vast as to be beyond comprehension. Musk also says, this is the first step toward becoming a Kardashev Type 2 civilization, one that can harness the full power of the sun. That's a reference to a 1960s astronomers' classification system, and it's pretty wild to hear a company talk about it in a regulatory filing. But here's the reality check. Astronomers are already complaining that Starlink's existing satellites are interfering with radio telescopes, essentially blinding them. Add 1 million more satellites. That's going to increase the risk of collisions and create even more space debris concerns. And let's not forget the infrastructure challenges, protecting these satellites, keeping them cool in space, and powering them. This is bold, but it's also a huge gamble. Moving on to Google, because they just dropped something that sent shockwaves through the gaming industry. 2 days ago, they unveiled Project Genie, an AI model that can turn simple text prompts or uploaded images into fully interactive digital worlds. Not static 3D snapshots, but actual playable environments that generate paths in real time as you move through them, with physics, dynamics, and interactions all simulated on the fly. Google says, quote, Genie 3 generates the path ahead in real time as you move and interact with the world. It simulates physics and interactions for dynamic worlds. Now here's where things get uncomfortable for game developers. The stock market reacted immediately. Take-Two, Interactive, the makers of Grand Theft Auto, dropped 10%. Roblox fell over 12%. Unity software plummeted 21%. Why? Because this technology threatens to disrupt the entire game development model. Right now, creating a premium game takes 5 to 7 years and costs hundreds of millions of dollars. Teams rely on engines like Unreal or Unity to handle gravity, lighting, sound, and physics. If AI can generate these experiences from a text prompt, what happens to those jobs? A games professor at NYU said we'll see a real transformation once AI starts creating experiences that are uniquely its own, rather than just speeding up traditional workflows. The thing is, we're already seeing record layoffs in the gaming industry after the pandemic boom. Nearly 90% of game developers are already using AI tools just to stay competitive. So yes, this could shorten development cycles and reduce costs, but it's also raising serious questions about job losses and what the future of game development even looks like. This next story is a bit different, but it's important. 2 days ago, John McGolion published an opinion piece in The Hill making the conservative case for universal basic income. Now, what makes this interesting is that McGolion used to oppose UBI, calling it a promoter of idleness. But the AI revolution changed his mind. Here's the argument. AI isn't just automating manual labor anymore. It's handling cognitive tasks like judgment and reasoning, and it's advancing at an exponential pace. AI pioneer Geoffrey Hinton says AI capabilities are doubling every 7 months. That's faster than society can adapt. McGolion warns that support roles will be automated this year, clerical and administrative work next year, professional tasks by 2028, and much of white-collar America could be obsolete by the early 2030s. Hinton even predicts AI will soon handle programming projects that currently take a month and finish them in hours. So what happens when tens of millions of people become unemployable? McGolion argues the United States has no coherent strategy for labor transitions or reskilling. We're relying on outdated assumptions that new jobs will just emerge. His solution? UBI as a limited, transparent mechanism to replace failing welfare systems, prevent societal fracture, and buy time to figure out how to redefine work and dignity in an AI-driven world. He's clear that UBI is a bridge, not an end goal, and he's urging immediate policy discussions before we hit a point of panic. It's a sobering perspective, and whether you agree with UBI or not, the underlying issue, mass unemployment driven by AI, is something we can't ignore. Finally, let's talk about some genuinely exciting research from the University at Albany. Yesterday, they published a study revealing how transformer-based AI agents actually learn, and it turns out they don't think the way we thought they did. For years, researchers assumed AI models organize information in smooth, low-dimensional spaces, kind of like a gently curving surface. But this new study shows they actually use stratified spaces, geometric structures, with multiple interconnected regions of varying dimensions. Think of it like a landscape that suddenly shifts from flat plains to towering mountains depending on what the AI is trying to figure out. The researchers analyzed a transformer agent playing a memory and navigation game where it had to collect coins while avoiding moving spotlights. What they found was incredible. When the AI was confident, like moving through a well-lit room or committed to an action, its internal representation existed in lower dimensions. But when it was uncertain, like navigating a crowded screen or deciding between multiple options, the dimensionality spiked. And these jumps in complexity aligned perfectly with moments of confusion, like approaching a coin, encountering a spotlight, or evaluating different paths. One of the researchers said, quote, "These models are not living on simple surfaces. It's a much richer and more complex picture." Another added, "These jumps in dimensionality reflect moments of uncertainty. It gives us a new window into how both machines and minds might represent complicated information." What's exciting about this is it could lead to smarter training methods. If we can monitor an AI's geometric complexity, we can identify exactly where it's struggling and adapt the training accordingly. It's a breakthrough that helps us understand not just AI, but potentially how our own minds work too. So there you have it. Apple betting on silent interactions, SpaceX reaching for the stars with orbital data centers, Google shaking up the gaming world, the growing debate over how we handle AI-driven unemployment, and fascinating insights into how AI actually learns. It's a lot to process, and these are the kinds of stories that will shape our tech landscape for years to come. We'll continue following these developments as they unfold. Thank you for staying informed with DigiAll Tech News. We'll be back with more updates as they develop.